What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nash here, welcome back to the channel, and today I have an updated Harpie Lady deck profile for you guys, which is coming out of the recent ban list that we just had. Obviously with the wind barrier statue being banned, it's kind of upsetting because of the fact that, well, the wind barrier statue was used quite a bit in the in the Fluenderies deck, and even though the deck is still playable, they basically lost their win con. But let's not forget, there is another card that they can use, and that is the water barrier statue, which I'm sure all the flu players out there are probably gonna want to play that after seeing this video. But this deck, honestly nothing's changed. Aside from the fact that the wind barrier statue is now no longer in the deck. I did take some cards out of the extra deck. I did add a few new additions to the deck. And honestly, this deck looks pretty badass. So hopefully you guys are ready for this deck profile. If you guys are and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, follow me on all of my social media. My ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And guys, we are 48 subs away from 200. And as I have said in previous videos, if this channel does indeed get to 200 subs, I will open up this Korean Strike of Neos box in its entirety on the channel. Truly, it's arguably one of the best sets out there. One of the oldest sets out there. I couldn't get an English one, but still getting a Korean version is pretty cool, because you can actually get, I believe, a secret rare, ultra rare, and or a ultimate rare Air Neos, which is pretty cool. But if the channel gets to 1,000 subs, which nowadays is wishful thinking, I'm going to be opening up this first edition Toon Chaos box in its entirety on the channel. So if you guys want to see these boxes get opened... Oh, hang on guys, my brother texted me. Hang on. Give me a second. There we go. So if you guys want to see these boxes get open, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any future videos. And with that being said, guys, let's get straight into it. Kicking these off, we obviously have the 3 Harpie Lady. This is basically the bread and butter of the whole deck. This card is basically there, just, you know, is basically there for all of your combo plays, and it's just an all-around good card altogether. Now we have the effect monsters. So kicking these off, we got 2 copies of Harpie's Pet Dragon Fearsome Fire Blast. Originally, I was running 1 Harpie's Pet Dragon and 1 Harpie's Pet Dragon Fearsome Fire Blast. I decided to bring these. I decided to take out the Harpie's Pet Dragon and bring in a second Fearsome Fire Blast, just because of the fact that this card has a Cyber Dragon effect, which is pretty cool. And what's even more cool about this is that if you pair this off with Harpie Channeler, Harpie Channeler's level will become 7, and you can instantly go into a rank 7, which this deck has 2 of them, which we'll get to that once we get into the extra deck. And my hair is acting a fool. My hair is literally acting a fool. And there's literally, my strands are coming out. Literally, guys, you could literally tell. Hang on, let me See that, guys? That's a strand of my hair. That right there is a strand of my hair. As is this one. It's kind of hard. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, but yeah. Yeah, my hair is, I need to cut it. I need to trim this down a little bit. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. Anyway, moving on. So, 2 copies of Fearsome Fire Blast. This card is in here, again, mainly because of the rank 7 plays that you can do with Harpie Channeler, which is really cool. We got the 1 Harpie Queen, which is only in here for 2 reasons. One, because it acts as a terraforming, where you can send it from your hand to your grave, and you can add Harpie's Hunting Ground to your hand from the deck, which is really cool. But the biggest problem with Harpie's Hunting Ground is that if this is the only card you have on that, if this is the only spell on board, when you normal summon a Harpie Lady, or even if you were to special summon a Harpie Lady, you would literally have to pop it, because you would have to pop the field spell itself, because the effect is a priority effect, meaning you can't escape it. You have to pop it no matter what, which is a bit of a downside. But what's cool about this is that the second thing that you can do with Harpie Queen is actually use it as rank 4 material to go into your rank 4 plays, depending on what rank 4s you have at your disposal, which is pretty fucking cool. Now we move on into the 3 of. So first up, we got the 3 Harpie Harpists. This card is actually really good. So it actually has two separate effects. The first one reads, when this card is normal summon, you can target one of the Wing Beast monster you control and a face-up monster your opponent controls, return them to the hand. So it's basically a double compulse, which is really cool. But if you don't have any other Wing Beasts on board, you're not going to be able to get its effect. But you can, however, get off its second effect if you used it as link material or whatever. You can actually use this effect, which reads during the end phase, if this card is in the grave because it was set there this turn, you can add a level 4 Wing Beast monster with 1500 or less from your deck to your hand, which is really good because the only targets that you can add to your hand are the Harpie Oracle, Harpie Lady, Harpie Perfumer, and Harpie Channeler. Those are the only ones. You can't add another copy of itself, nor can you add the Harpie Queen, because Harpie Queen has 1900 attack. Harpie Harpist has 1700, which is a bit of a downside, but as long as you're able to get a card like say the Perfumer or the Harpie Channeler, you basically just have combo right there, which is really nice. Then, of course, we got the 3 aforementioned Harpie Perfumer. This card is actually really cool because it has a sort of like a Spell and Trap Rota effect where it reads, I cannot speak. Sorry guys, my fucking autism. Where the effect reads, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add a spell or trap from your deck to your hand that specifically lists the card Harpie Lady Sisters in its text. If you controlled a level 5 or higher Harpie monster when you activate this effect, you can also add a second such card with a different name from the first. So the two cards that you're gonna add the most, that you're gonna be adding for the most part, is the Elegant Egotist and the Harpie's Feather Rest. You won't be able to add the Hysteric Party, because Hysteric Party, yes it is a bit a sort of a floodgate, but with Hysteric Party, it's basically call by, not call by. It's basically call Call of the Haunted, but for Harpie. So you're not going to be able to add it to your hand. But as I said before, Elegant Egotist and the Harpie's Feather Rest, you will be adding those cards for the most part, which is pretty cool. Then of course we got the 3 Harpie Channeler. This card, absolutely insane. So the effect reads: you can discard 1 Harpie card, special summon a Harpie monster from your deck in defense, except this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. And while you control a dragon, this card's level becomes 7. This card's name becomes Harpie Lady while on the field or in the grave. So as long as you have Harpie's Pet Dragon, Fearsome Fire Blast on board, Harpie Channeler will become level 7, and you can instantly go into a rank 7, depending on what you have at your disposal. I know that there were some decks, some Harpie-based decks that were actually running Dracosac, which honestly is in which Dracosac is not too bad, but nobody runs it anymore, unfortunately. Just because of the fact that it can easily be outed by cards such as like Imperm, and obviously cards like Macro. I think Macrocosmos can also out the Dracosac as well, which is kind of a downfall, but still, it's pretty cool. But my rank 7s, I only have 2, which again we'll get to the extra deck here in a bit. Next up, we got 2 copies of Harpie Oracle. This is probably, I wouldn't say that this is a brick, but what's interesting about this is that it has a Cyber Dragon effect where it reads that if you control a level 5 or higher Harpie monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. And its other effect reads that on normal or special summon, you can add a spell trap from your grave to your hand that lists Harpie Lady Scissors in its text during the end phase of the turn. So cards such as Harpie's Feather Rest, Elegant Egotist, let's see here, Alluring Mirror Split, and even also Harpie's Hunting Ground could also be, I think, could also be a potential search. Could be another potential target. I'm not so sure, but those are just some of the cards you can add from your grave to your hand. But for the most part, you're gonna be adding Elegant Egotist, just because of the fact that it's not a once per turn hilariously enough, and you can just summon out all three of your vanilla Harpie ladies, and you can just combo off into into a couple of rank 4s, maybe a synchro play, or just use all those Harpie Lady monsters to go into a rank 4, which there's one card in the extra deck that actually uses up more than 2 level 4 monsters, which we'll get to that in a bit. And then to round up the monsters, we got 2 Ash Blossom and 2 Ghost Belle. Obviously because of the fact that there are a lot of decks in the format now that do have effects in the graveyard. I think Fluendarise is one of them. Exorcister is one of them. I think Kashtira is definitely another one. Sprite Frogs as well, which Sprite Frog without Ronin Totem, without Ronin Totem, the deck is just pretty much done. Like, you can't really do a whole lot with it. Maybe with obviously maybe with the substitute you can, but without Ronin Totem, the deck is just pretty much done. But still, you can use Ghost Belle on a Ronin Totem. But for the most part, you want to try and use a call by on a Ronin Totem if it was legal, because, well, you wouldn't be able to get its effect off. But moving on into the spells into the spells. For the one-ofs, we got the one Harpie's Feather Duster, the one rank up magic Numeron Force, obviously because of the fact that I have a number monster and its chaos form, and Numeron Force is basically Dark Ruler no more. If that number monster is the only one you have on board, this card is basically a Dark Ruler no more, which is pretty nice. We got the one Monster Reborn, the one Called by the Grave, the one Alluring Mirror Split. It's a continuous spell that reads as follows: when a Harpie Lady or Harpie Lady Sisters you control is destroyed by battle, you can spell summon a Harpie monster from your deck with a different original name than the destroyed monster. If this card you control is destroyed by a Harpie card effect or your opponent's card effect, target one Harpie monster in your grave, special summon it. You can only use each effect once per turn. So not only is this a special summon from the deck, it's as if you were running a second Monster Reborn, which is pretty cool. The only downside is that it can sometimes clog up your back row. So if it does end up clogging up your back row and you don't have any way to get its full effect, then obviously the Harpie's Hunting Ground is probably the best way to try and pop it, because by popping the Mirror Split off of the effects of the Harpie's Hunting Ground, you're able to get the Monster Reborn effect, summon out a card like say the Harpie Perfumer, and you're able to get out pretty much any Harpie spell that you want to your hand, and you can just combo off from there, which is really nice. And speaking of the Hunting Ground, we got the one single copy of the aforementioned Harpie's Hunting Ground. Yes, this does have a downside being a priority effect, but it is a cool way to break your opponent's back row one by one, which is pretty nice. And the craziest part is that it's not a once per turn. So anytime you special summon a Harpie Lady monster, you basically get to pop their entire back row, which is pretty cool. And then for the other one we got the one Pot of Avarice, just in case if you have no more monsters and you need more monsters to go into more of your Xyz plays. Pot of Avarice is in here to basically get you to that point, as are the three Harpie's Feather Rests, in which the Harpie's Feather Rest is basically a pot of Avarice. But what's cool about this is that the effect reads target 3 Harpie Lady and or Harpie Lady Sisters in your grave, shuffle them into the deck and draw 1 card. If you controlled a level 5 or higher Harpie monster, when you activate this effect, draw 2 cards instead, and for the rest of the turn, you're not allowed to special summon monsters except for Wind. So there are quite a few wind monsters in the extra deck, which I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I actually have 4. Everything else is like light, dark, and earth for the most part, which is pretty crazy. But still, it is pretty cool. It's pretty cool that Pot of Avarice plus Harpie's Feather Rest, you basically get back a total of 8 monsters, and you draw 4 cards at the cost of only using the Pot of Avarice and the Harpie's Feather Rest, which is pretty cool. Speaking of drawing cards, we have 2 copies of Wing Requital, which is which is basically really, guys. If you guys heard barking in the background, I apologize. 5 dogs in this house, and 4 of them bark like it's nothing. I don't know why. I just don't know why. Anyway, the 2-wing requital is basically pot of greed at the cost of 600 life points. But the thing is that you would have to have exactly 2. You would have to have at least 2 monsters, 2 wing-based monsters with different original names. So it would have to be Harpie Queen, Harpie Harpist, and like I'll say as a random example, Cyber Slash Harpie Lady, and you would basically be able to get the +2 off of it, which is really nice. And then to round up the spells, we got 3 copies of Elegant Egotist. Not much to say about that card. By the way, shoutouts to Brisk. By the way, shoutouts to Brisk for the pink lemonade, not sponsored. Not sponsored, best pink lemonade of all time. Do not at me in the comments, people. Best drink ever. Anyway, moving on into the traps. We actually have quite a few of them. So first up, we have 3 copies of Harpie's Feather Storm. This is again basically dark. This is basically Dark Ruler no more, where you're able to just prevent your opponent from activating any monster effects that your opponent may have on board, which is pretty nasty. But what's cool about this is that if it were to be destroyed while it was set, you can add Harpie's Feather Duster from your grave or your deck to your hand. So if you have Duster in your graveyard, and Harpie's Feather and the Feather Storm were to be destroyed, you can add the Duster from your grave back to your hand, and you can use the Harpie's Feather Duster again, which is pretty nasty. Next up, we have 2 copies of a very strange card, but this is only in here to stop Kashtira and Runic Naturia, and that is Chain Dispel. You guys are wondering, what is this card? Well, it's a normal trap that reads as follows. When a spell or trap card is activated, destroy all cards in the controller's deck with the same name as the activated card. So basically, it's chain destruction, but for spells and traps. So if your opponent were to activate a card like I'll say Runic Tip, or even also the Kashtira Field Spell, the card that they activated from their hand, it stays, but the other copies that are in the deck, if any at all, get destroyed, meaning they get sent to the graveyard, which is pretty nuts. And it's a great way to just stop your opponent from actually comboing off. It's pretty nasty, guys. And then to round up the whole deck itself, we got 2 copies of Crackdown, which is a semi old school card, but the card is just still busted enough as it is. Activate by targeting one face-up monster your opponent controls. Take control of it. Take control of that monster. While you control that monster, it cannot attack or activate its effects. When that monster leaves the field, destroy this card. So what's cool about this is that this is basically it's basically Change of Heart Fiendish Chain in one Floodgate, which is pretty cool. And then of course we got the 2 aforementioned copies of Hysteric Party. Obviously, if you don't have a way to get your monsters back into your deck, Hysteric Party is pretty cool because you're able to just spam your board with a bunch of with a bunch of Harpie ladies, and you can go into your plays right from there, which is pretty cool. Moving on into the extra deck. The extra deck is actually pretty scary. Excuse me, just because of the fact that with a lot of these, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to make these monsters, but trust me, guys. Once you guys get a look at the extra deck, you're probably gonna ask yourself why. But I do want to let you guys know that I always post the deck lists on my Instagram. So if you guys have not done so already, make sure you guys follow me on my Instagram. My @ will be in the description. And again, make sure you guys follow me there. So let's get straight into the extra deck. First up, we have 2 copies of Cyber / Harpie Lady. I think I was running 3 last time. Ow, my neck. Sorry guys, my neck is stiff. Oh, I can't crack it. Ow. Ow. Anyway, Cyber / Harpie Lady is one of those unique cards. So even though it's a generic level 8 synchro, you can just use any two Harpie Ladies, and you can just summon out Cyber /. So it's pretty nasty. So you can use any Harpie Lady monster as a tuner. Excuse me, and you can just combo off from there, which is really nice. So obviously, just like all the other Harpie Lady effect monsters, this one also becomes Harpie Lady while on the field and or in the graveyard. When a spell, trap, or effect is activated, except during the damage step, as a quick effect, you can target one monster your opponent controls, or a Harpie Lady monster you control, return it to the hand. So it's essentially a compulse. That's all it is. That's all it does. It's a way to stop. It's a way to break boards. It's absolutely nutty. Absolutely nasty. Now we move on into the Xyz monster. So first up, obviously we have Zeus, which is in here because of the fact that I've got one card in particular that can help make Zeus even stronger, but you guys, I'm sure you guys might have an idea of what that card is, but we will move on. We've got the one, number 89, Diablosis the Mind Hacker. This card is just absolutely... This card is horrifying. This card is horrifying in a deck like this. So the effect reads once per turn, you can detach one material from this card, look at your opponent's extra deck, and banish one from it. I swear, those dogs need to shut up. Face down at the end of the battle phase. If this card is short a monster by battle, you can target a card in your opponent's grave, banish it face down. If a card your opponent owns and possesses banish face down, while you control this card, except during the damage step, you can banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down, equal to their face down banished cards. You can only use this effect once per turn. This card is actually really good because it's a way to force deck out your opponent, and you just easily win right off the bat. It's essentially call by. It's an Omni call by, which is really nice. We got the single copy of number 11 Big Eye, which Big Eye is still a pretty busted card, even by today's standards, which is really nice. We got the one. We got also number 104 Masquerade, which this card is essentially a mill. This card can mill your opponent's deck one card at a time. Which is just absolutely insane. And it has a second effect, which reads during either player's battle phase, when an opponent's monster effect is activated, you can detach one material from this card, negate the activation, and inflict 800 damage to your opponent. This is a great way to deal a little bit of extra damage to your opponent, especially if they're down to their last say they're down to the last like 1,000 life points. They take let's say 300 damage, and they activate a monster effect. You detach a card off of the Masquerade. The effect is negated, and boom, they take 800 damage, which is absolutely insane. Which is an instant GG no re. We got its chaos form, which is known as Chaos number 104 Umbral Horror Masquerade. This card, its chaos form is just as powerful as its original form. So it reads, when this card is supposed to summon, you can target a spell trap on the field, destroy it. If this card has Masquerade as one of the materials, it gains the effect that reads, once per turn during either player's turn, when a monster effect is activated on your opponent's side of the field, you can detach one material from this card, negate the activation, then you send a random card from your opponent's hand to the grave, and if you do, half your opponent's life points. This is a nasty way to not only rip a card out of their hand, but you can also break their board, and you're also able to deal a fuck ton of damage for game. And if you have let's say Masquerade, and I'll say, as a random example, I'll say the Harpie Perfumer. The Harpie Harpist. That right there is 4,700 damage. That's basically game, which is pretty nuts. And because that I mentioned Zeus, we got the one card that can help ensure that Zeus becomes live for a few turns, known as Time Thief Redoer. This card is just absolutely nuts. It's a great way to take the top card of your opponent's deck during every standby phase, which is both your standby phase and your opponent's, and just keep attaching, which would help Zeus become extremely live. Then, of course, we are running a new addition to the extra deck, which is known as Sacred Sheep Tree Baromet. If you guys have never seen this card before, it's a rank 4 Earth Plant Exceeds with 1900 attack, 2000 defense, and requires 2 or more level 4 monsters. So a card like Hysteric Party is definitely going to play a huge factor into this card. And the effect reads, you can detach one material from this card, target one normal trap in your grave, place it on the bottom of the deck, and then draw one card. If a normal trap card is activated except during the damage step, you can detach one material from a monster you control, and if you do, spell summon a level 4 monster from your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. This is a really great way to get back your Harpie's Featherstorm, and even also your Chain Dispel, which is really nice. But what's also cool about this card, about the Sacred Sheep Tree, is that this card can also special summon any Harpie monster that you have from your hand directly to the board, which would help you trigger off even more effects, and it will help you go into more of your plays, which is pretty nuts. Then, of course, we got the one Harpie's Pet Phantasmal Dragon. It's not the best card. It's not the best card, but what's cool about this is that is that this card can attack your opponent directly, but it can only work if it can only work if the dragon actually does have if it has materials. If it doesn't, it's essentially a 2000 attack body. That's all it is. However, the only downside is that during each of your end phases, you do have to detach a material, which is a bit of a downfall. But what's cool about this is that you can even you can actually use it to go into Zeus, which would give you what, two board wipes in an instant, which is really nice. But still, it's a bit of a stretch to play this card. Then of course we got the probably one of the most bizarre cards you will ever see in a deck like Harpie Lady, and that is Vylon de Sigma. If you guys have never seen this card before, it's an old school card that was released in Hidden Arsenal 6, I believe. Yeah, I believe Hidden Arsenal 6, which this card is a rank 4 light fairy Xyz with 2500 attack, 2100 defense, literally all the stats of a dark magician, which is hilarious, and it requires 3 level 4 monsters. And the effect reads: once per turn, you can detach one material from this card, target one face-up attack position monster your opponent controls, equip that target to this card. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles a monster, destroy that monster. This monster must be equipped with a monster with the same attribute as the monster it is battling to activate and resolve this effect. So this is basically Thousand Eyes Restrict on a 2500 beat stick. That's all it is. That's all it is, which is pretty nice. And then to round up the Xyz monsters, we got Lightning Shidori as a way to just set your opponent back a turn, which is pretty cool. And then we have arguably some of the most insane cards I did not think would ever work in this deck. We have not one, not two, but 3 Tri-Brigade Link monsters. We have Shurag, the ominous Omen, Farigit, the Barren Blossom, and Rugal, the Silver Sheller. Shurag's effect reads if this card is special summon, or if another Beast Warrior, or Wind Beast monster is special summoned to your field, you can banish one card on the field. If this card is sent to the grave, you can add a Beast Warrior, or Wind Beast monster from your deck to your hand, whose level is less than or equal to the number of your banished Beast Warrior, and Wind Beast monsters. You can only use each effect once per turn. It's basically a way to just break boards. This is another good way to break boards, which is pretty cool. But you're also able to add cards to your hand as well, which is pretty nice. Farigit's effect reads: during your main phase, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Beast Warrior, or Wind Beast monster from your hand, and you cannot use monsters as link material for the rest of the turn except Beast Warrior, or Wind Beast monsters. If this card is sent to the grave, you can draw one card, then place one card from your hands on the bottom of the deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. This card is actually really good because it's a great way to potentially unbreak your hand, and you're able to combo off from there, which is really nice, which is pretty cool. And then Rugal, the Silver Sheller's effect reads: during your opponent's main phase, as a quick effect, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Beast Warrior, or Wind Beast monster from your hand or grave, but negate its effects and return it to the hand during the end phase. So that effect, it's essentially, hang on guys, my hair tie kind of ripped. Hang on. Okay, made it in. That's what she said. Anyway, Anyway, it's essentially a cyber ref system, which is just absolutely insane. And it has another effect that reads, if this card is sent to the grave, you can make all monsters your opponent currently controls lose 300 attack for each monster type you control until the end of the turn. You can only use each effect once per turn. So for each monster type, so we have obviously Winged Beast, Dragon, Zombie, Machine, Psychic, Spellcaster, Psychic, Plant, Fairy, Thunder, Winged Beast, and Beast Warrior. So we have quite a few different types. So that's a pretty hefty amount of attack it's losing, but it depends on how your board gets set up. But with that being said, But with that being said, that is it for the extra deck. Moving on into the side deck. The side deck is only in here again to stop Runix, Kashtira, and also to stop pretty much any deck that does a lot of searching, and also that does a lot of sets a lot of back row. So for that, so for decks like those, I've got 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird, which this card basically literally stops Runic, Kashtira, and also what's the deck? Fluendaries and a couple others as well, which is pretty nice. We have a second pot of Avarice, just in case if the Alluring Mirror split is just ends up being a brick, and you need more ways to get your monsters back into your deck. The second Avarice is in here for that particular reason. For the back row removal, we got 2 copies of Lightning Storm and 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, which Cosmic Cyclone, even by today's standards, it's still a pretty crazy card. Then we got 2 copies of Zing Zang Hu to basically just stop your opponent from activating their back row. So if they do set 2 back row, once they reach their end phase, you can flip up Zing Zang Hu, and you're able to just stop your opponent from using the back row, which is really nice. And then to round up the whole deck itself, we got 2 copies of Solemn Strike and 2 copies of Solemn Warning. So guys, that is gonna do it for this deck profile. Again, I will be posting the deck lists. I will be posting the deck list on my Instagram about an hour or so after this video gets put up. So if you guys have not done so already, make sure you guys follow me on my Instagram and the rest of my social media. My ads will be in the description. And that will do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel, you guys want more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, follow me on all of my social media. My ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.